Lindsay Vastola joins us today on the Fitness Business Podcast. Lindsay wears a couple of hats, actually, like a lot of our guests. She too, I think everybody actually in the fitness industry wears a couple of hats. But Lindsay is the founder of Momentum 365, which is a lifestyle coaching program for women. She's also a fitness and lifestyle entrepreneur. And many of you FBP family out there listening might also know her as the editor of PFP, which is Personal Fitness Professional Magazine. Lindsay, thanks for taking time out of your day to join us here on the Fitness Business
I'm
Podcast.
I'm thrilled to be here, Dory. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we've been trying to get you on, and live schedules get in the way, but you are finally here. So thank
Finally,
you.
bucket list item checked off.
Hey, all right. We like those. Love your topic today. We're going to talk about wellness programs for revenue, retention, and results. I think a lot of our listeners out there, they're decision makers within the fitness industry. They're going to really appreciate, I think, what you have to say today.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing, and then my perspective I'll bring as both a previous gym owner of 15 years and how it really was pivotal in my business, but also kind of from a bird's eye view of the industry in general. So I'm really looking forward to sharing.
Yeah, well, our listeners out there, they don't always realize that sometimes we chat a lot before we actually start recording this. So we get in a couple good laughs and stories and things like that. And you were telling me a story about the joiner and really like how this was pivotal for you re-engineering your gym's business model and services. I actually would like you to tell that story to all of our FBP family.
Absolutely. The joiner is one of my favorite stories because it demonstrates it's kind of just evidence that one conversation can change the trajectory of your business. And I think that's something, if there's the takeaway that I learned early on from one of my business mentors was we need to listen to our business, and our business tells us things all the time. Sometimes things we don't want to hear, but we need to listen in order to just make sure that we're fully servicing our clients, that we are maximizing opportunity and potential. And so this was one of those conversations. I have a client. She was one of those clients. Her name's Deb. She was one of those clients who were, she's the loyal fan. She showed up to everything, anything that I offered. She was one of the first, like with her credit card out, like that ideal client. And she'd been with us for several years. And just for context, I owned it was a high touch, semi-private group training gym for women. Owned it for about 15 years. So this was kind of on the early side of boutique fitness. In my area in central New Jersey, I was one of those first boutique fitness centers. And so our memberships were anywhere between $200 and $300 a month. So it was a very different experience than many of our clients had been in bigger box open access gyms. And she came to me one day after a session, and she said, "Lindsay, something that I've realized after being with you now for so long," she said, "I realize I'm a joiner." And I looked at her and I said, "What do you mean you're a joiner?" And she said, "For literally the last 30 years," she was in her, I think, mid to late 50s. "For the better part of the last 30 years, I am always looking to join the next thing, hoping that it's finally the answer to my problems." I was, she's looking to join Jenny Craig or Weight Watchers or whichever the new, workout video fad is, or the technology or the gyms that are opening in the area, right? I liken it to, I think women will appreciate this, when you go into a drugstore and you see all of the face lotions and they're like anti-aging, and it's like, even though we might have found something that works for us, we're still looking for the next best thing. And I had this aha moment after that conversation where I said, number one, I need to really not take for granted that my members will be here forever, because this is from a deeper psychological level. If she's always looking for something else, that means she could be quietly quitting on me. Right now, it's like quiet quitters. We're talking a lot about, like, if her eye is on another gym, if I'm not doing my job to keep her engaged, to have a journey that actually solves the problems that she's having, I am going to lose her. And the fact of the matter is, most of my clients are probably in that same headspace. It also made me stop and say, at the end of the day, fitness is not the solution. Fitness is part of the solution, but what's really going to keep her at my gym and not going elsewhere is giving her all the things that she needs to succeed. And success for her means, right, of course, weight loss, but all of those pieces. Just giving fitness, right, with all the competition that was arising at the time, she's going to find another place. And so it was kind of a reflective moment for me where I said, I need to go back to the drawing board, because if I'm only trying to sell fitness, so is every other gym on the block. How am I really differentiating? I need to put myself in the consumer's shoes, look at my business and say, what differentiates me from everybody else? So that's when I went to the drawing board and I said, what's everything that they need, right? And so I took all of our services. We had nutrition, we had a dietitian on staff, we had a massage therapist. Of course, we had our fitness programming, but I knew that there was a piece that I wanted to integrate in a more methodic manner with our mindset and habit change and behavior change piece. And so I took all these pieces, I took the services, because they weren't selling very well a la carte, right? Nobody's really buying nutrition long term, but we know that they need it. So I took those services and I packaged it and created an 8-week journey, created a wellness program, and packaged that, delivered it, promoted it, really looked at the problems it needed to solve. And that became it, without, almost by accident, it became that signature program that made sales easier. I could hire staff now based on making sure that they align with the methodology. We had companies, local corporations coming to us and asking us, hey, can you offer that 8-week program in our, which is now Momentum? Can you offer Momentum 365 for our employees? It opened up and unlocked so much potential that I felt was trapped in the business. And ultimately, when I say like increased our revenue, and I had a small boutique business, $100,000 a year bottom line, and then for memberships, retention and attraction of both members and staff, and then ultimately it just gave better results. It gave something different than just the fitness piece. So that's the one conversation that really was pivotal in just going back to the joiner, and it changed the trajectory of the business for sure.
I like that. The joiner.
The joiner. A self-described joiner.
Little does Deb know she's referred to as the joiner.
Exactly. Well, she called it herself. I said, it was great. It was one of those conversations that was very powerful.
My next question that I'd like to ask you might be a two-parter, because I want to talk to you about signature wellness programs versus offering separate a la carte services, which I feel is kind of commonplace.
Yes.
Is what we've been doing for, the past 20 years in the fitness industry. But before we get into that, I just want you to clarify, when you're talking about a signature wellness program, what is that versus a la carte? Well, I think everybody knows what a la
Sure.
carte.
Yeah. So when I use the word wellness, I'm saying wellness because I'm speaking peer to peer. We use, I think, as an industry, the word wellness is something we're kind of using as a catch-all for well-being, stress management, habit change, behavior change, kind of this. Again, it's a catch-all. Trying to sell wellness and well-being even 10 years ago was hard. I had to really get creative with how I communicated and articulated the value of the program. So I've tried everything, call it a habit change program, call it a mindset program, call it lifestyle coaching. So I think, again, speaking peer to peer, when I'm saying a wellness program as an industry, that's, I think, what we're generally saying is, I know we need to offer something else. We need to offer, consumers are now avidly seeking these things, especially since COVID. They know stress management and everything. They're avidly seeking it. When we're talking about a la carte, so the disconnect that I see in most gyms is, if we're looking from a consumer standpoint, they don't buy nutrition. They think they want a nutritionist or a dietitian, but too many gyms try to sell it a la carte, and it's not something that the consumer, like, they'll buy it, but there's no longevity to it. And that's a frustration that the gyms get into, because they're like, well, we have a dietitian on staff, or we have this nutrition program, but we can't get people to do it more than 3 months. Or, coaching services. We have a habit change coach or a lifestyle coach. The catch is really about how you package and deliver and communicate the value of a program. And I think the key here is for owners and decision makers and leaders is it's not just about adding wellness program or lifestyle coaching program to your menu of services. The way that you will succeed with a service like this is to actually build it into the client journey. So it becomes seamless when they come in as a new member. It initially can be what they are attracted to, number one, because remember, we're talking about people who aren't stepping foot in a gym because people don't like to buy fitness, at least outside of the 20% of generally self-motivated people. So this can attract people in because it feels different, but then they need to see a very clear journey of, okay, what did the first 90 days look like? Then what do I do after that? How is fitness integrated? And be able to communicate that with a client or with a new member so that they can see where they're going versus, oh, I got to sign up for a membership forever. It just gives a really unique selling proposition for a gym owner. I hope that clarifies kind of the difference.
Yeah, it does. It does. So, the title of this episode is all about these wellness programs, or, sometimes you say signature wellness programs, which I
Mhm.
actually like, sounds really kind of classy. I like the ring to it. You know, how to get them to generate revenue, retention, results. Um, how does that impact? Like, how do we generate those three things?
Sure. So this is really where a gym we have to look at this different than a challenge. So this tends to be a trend in the fitness industry where we'll offer a 28-day challenge. And they come in for 3 times a week or whatever the program is. The problem with a challenge is there's often a disconnect between what the person comes in, there's this expectation, 28 days, and you get all of these things. And then they're pushed into a membership that may or may not align. And again, talking about that client journey. So when we talk about a signature wellness program, I use the word signature very specifically. If we think about Orange Theory, for example, they have a signature methodology. If I asked anybody on the street what makes Orange Theory special or what makes them different, even if they don't know, they'll know that there's something that has to do with like the orange zone, or right, they can put their stake in the ground and say, this is what makes us different. So when we're trying to differentiate for the consumer, having a wellness program that says, this is the problem we solve. If you feel stuck in a body that's not yours, you feel like you're on the roller coaster of managing stress, trying to find balance in your life, and you haven't found a way to prioritize your health and fitness, our insert signature program here, our 8-week, my program at the time, 8-week body project, my 8-week momentum program, whatever your program is your first step on your wellness journey. Now, I always use the cocktail party example, that if I'm at a cocktail party and a friend asks, like, oh, where do you work out, or what are you doing for your health? I can specifically tell that friend, oh, I go down to whatever fitness center. They have this 8-week program that gives you everything you need. They have, nutrition included. They do stress management techniques. There's lifestyle coaching and the fitness, and it's a great place to start. If a client has to say, it's so good, you just have to go try it for yourself, we're not going to get those people in the door. So building it in for revenue, right? Now it's an ad. We're taking services we already have, we're packaging and bundling them as perhaps a higher ticket entry point for a new client. There's great opportunities for continuity. So once they go through that program, why not continue those coaching services or those nutrition services as an add-on an add-on monthly fee to their membership so they can keep that progress going. So it's not like, doesn't have to be just a one and done. That's what differentiates like a 30-day challenge from a core signature program like this. Retention, now you have an ethos, you have a common language, you have coaches that are, I call them champions of the program. Like coaches and trainers want something more to train than just the fitness piece. Offering a wellness program is a great way to offer your staff even a more, deeper buy-in into what you offer. So you have retention from there, and then ultimately results. I mean, physical results, mental results, but business bottom line.
For our boutique owners, gym owners, or even department heads out there listening that they're kind of curious and maybe they think this would be a good fit for them to add into their lineup at their club, what would you say is the very first step they should take? Like they walk away from this episode, right? And they've got this great idea and they're like, all right, I'm going to make some notes. I'm going to jot some things down. What would you say is the very first step, or maybe the first two steps if they go hand in hand,
Yeah.
that you would advise?
I call this the signature trifecta. And I think even if you don't want to do a wellness program, I think this is a great exercise just in general. So there's 3 questions to sit down with your team and answer. What specific problem are you solving? So we want, like, the specific problem being, we want to offer a wellness program for success-driven individuals who don't know where to start with their fitness and their health journey. We want to offer a solution for that. Then the second part of that is, who specifically do you solve it for? I think you can take the same program and say you could do one for moms, you could do one for working professionals, but thinking specifically who that client is that this program is targeted for. Boutique is a little easier to get a little more niche into that individual, but I work with gym chains that have 15 locations, and while they might have general population, we can still target people by their psychographics, people who feel stuck in a body that's not theirs, people who are overwhelmed by the fitness and nutrition options out there, right? So we're getting specific of who it is. So sit down and brainstorm like your ideal client, who could use this program, and then how do you deliver it? So think about your current services, like just do a brain dump of all of your services. We talked about the a la carte, and say, how can we bundle these and package these and create a journey? I love like an 8-week or a 12-week model because it's not too long, it's not too short, and it gives especially new members something that feels very doable for them. How can you take those services and offer them in, it's sort of like the chef's table, give them the best of the best for 8 to 12 weeks. How can you do that and package it and deliver it in a way that is sustainable, easy to talk about, and easy to integrate into your business? So I think that's a very powerful first step to kind of get a wellness program off the ground.
Good advice. That was very good. I like that a lot. Now, I always like to call our guests our industry experts, right? Because we're always looking for people to come on to the show that have just experienced it all, the highs and the lows. So I love to always ask this question to our experts because I feel most of you have experienced mistakes, right? I always feel like we never become an expert on something until we've kind of gotten through the mistakes. So what mistakes could you kind of warn our listeners out there, that maybe have happened to you, or you've heard other people it's happened to them, just to avoid those pitfalls?
Absolutely. I can narrow this down to a few that I see very consistently because I work with a lot of gyms integrating these types of programs. Number one, they're like kind of bought in, but they're not really bought in. They're not going in and saying, we are going to really champion this program, and you have to give it time to integrate into your business. What's you have your early adopters, you have your whatever it is, right? You have those people who follow. Building in a new program does take time. So you have to kind of be ready to, I love the idea of running a pilot program. So you run the pilot, you learn, you run around 2, you learn. But that's the thing, is like, it didn't work the first time. And so we're going to And I hate that for gyms because I know this is a pain point where they'll invest in a new program or a new service. And if they paid, for somebody to get trained in it and then that trainer leaves, or they invest in it and they never use it, it feels like lost money and lost opportunity. And so it's really about like making sure, that's why those 3 questions that I suggested like are important to figure out for the ethos. Not building it into the client journey, I think, is another misstep. So if it just becomes an a la carte where you're like, hey, here are our memberships. We also have a nutritionist, we have massage, we have a wellness program, and we have supplements, right? If it becomes another line item, another a la carte, it will be another forgotten program. So just, you've got to have, I love the idea of you want to have a champion in your business that really believes in the wellness program, that can see it through, to build it into the business model, to give it time, and to really methodically build it into the business model and the member journey.
I love the champion of program. Like, I love that you gave your staff a special name. Like, who doesn't love a little special name?
Yeah. And, and that's what staff is such a pain point for. I know like every listener is like, oh, yes, that's another episode we could talk about. But why, one thing in my business, why this, I loved it, of course, for the clients, but for my staff, I could give them ownership over something other than just, and I don't mean to demean it, but when they're coming and they're doing the grind on the floor and training the classes, they want to diversify their career, and that's how we're going to get trainers and staff to stay with us longer. Give them something meaningful, give them development. This is a great way for them to diversify their skills that can be directly tied to revenue too. So it's, again, there's the win-win-win for everybody. But the champion, I love calling it as that as well.
I couldn't agree with you more. I've had a few guests on talking about, employees retention. We always talk about member retention.
Yes.
We need to talk about employee retention as well. And they say the same thing, that one of the best ways you can keep an employee is allowing them ownership, or making them
Yes.
feel as if they have ownership. And I love the fact, yeah, you give them a title and people like to own up to that. It's such a positive champion of programs. Like,
It is.
makes your chest a little higher when you walk around.
Sure does. Sure does.
Lindsay, I love the information that you have delivered today. I know that it is going to just help get many of our listeners out there, kind of maybe that little motivational push. They know they probably have to make a change within their 4 walls. And I think this is a great episode for them to just kind of get motivated and ask themselves those 3 questions. So thank you so much for coming on to the Fitness Business Podcast and just sharing your knowledge with everybody.
Thank you, Dory. And thanks everybody who's listening. We got to keep fighting the good fight, right?